Detroit, I love you. From your basketball sun that hangs in the sky, then falls only to bounce back up again tomorrow, down to your alligator shoes. I'll kiss you on the river, meet you in the middle of a suitcase and wonder, do you ever think of me this way? Do you even know I've gone? Say my name, Detroit.
What made me feel more at home in Detroit than any place else was the sense of possibility and the sense that there was a lot to be done here.
I feel like, you know, this is the place where I can make my mark.
You live where you feel comfortable, you do business where you feel comfortable, and I just chose to do it here.
I think that it's a city that has begun to realize that it's really only going to be lots and lots of small solutions.
One building, one block at a time, one person at a time, one life at a time.
Lots of little things. That's the future.
This can be done block by block.
One pair at a time, we're gonna make a difference. That's the goal here.
Everything you need, you already have. When you don't know who you are, you will go running down a yellow brick road, off to see a wizard to get a brain that you already got, looking for courage that you already have. The power that Dorothy had in the ruby slippers, she was too busy focusing on a wicked witch instead of focusing on her power. And too many times we focus on the negative and we don't see the positive things that's already there. I wake up every day and I'm excited about the possibilities of what can happen in Detroit.
These are the overtime fists clocking. These are the hands that braid hair and lock dread and cook meat that falls right off the bone into fat black pots of collards, working harder and harder and harder still. So step on, Detroit. Dribble and shoot, pass and play, struggle and fight, darken and light, drive and impel, riot and quell. Pick the steel burrs off the cross members at the front of the Jeep Cherokee. Look what we've made you. Steam and steel. Still. That's how hard I love you.
I firmly believe that key to revitalizing our communities globally is investing in education. You know, perhaps you have on your bookshelf at home one of your favorite books that you grew up reading. I loved Dr. Seuss as a kid. And one of my favorite books was Oh, the Places You'll Go. Words that still ring true for me today. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. Sage words of advice from Dr. Seuss for children and adults alike. You know, I was a product of a timeless tradition growing up, of my parents reading to me every night before I went to bed. A tradition that I maintain now with my 5-year-old daughter, no matter where I find myself in the world, like here at a Room to Read library in Vietnam. It developed in me a passion and a love of reading and being a lifelong learner and explorer. But imagine a world where there was no ability to access Google, there was no books, no one of those 140 character tweets that some of you are probably tweeting now, none of those Facebook updates. You couldn't read a newspaper or the classics. You couldn't even read a medicine bottle when you needed it. Imagine. Imagine what your life would be like if you showed up to school and it was a ramshackle building. It was a teacher trying to teach 70 to 80 kids with very little professional development. There were not enough textbooks to go around. There was no other supplementary reading material, nothing on the walls. Imagine trying to learn in that environment. You know, unfortunately, the situation we find ourselves in today is that there are 793 million people that cannot read or write. Think of the magnitude of that. 793 million people that are illiterate. 98% of them are in the developing world. 2/3 of them are women and girls. So some of the most at-risk of our population are impacted by illiteracy the most. And yet, I believe that the key to developing solutions is an educated population. I challenge you to think of any problem that at its heart does not have education as a core part of its solution. Whether it be improving the environment, public health, family nutrition, political participation, any problem that you can think of, at the foundation, education can help. And in fact, it's critical to helping exactly what we're talking about today, which is communities finding their own solutions that work for them most because they know what they need the most. I think Nelson Mandela actually said it best. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. You know, that was a founding belief of Room to Read over 10 years ago. And it's still the motto that we base ourselves on today. World change starts with educated children. And so we're addressing this issue in two core components that we work on around literacy and gender equality in education through our Girls Education program, so that we can ensure that the world has more educated children that can grow up and be empowered, active, and responsible citizens. And they are the key to revitalizing the communities because they will be able to come up with the solutions. And it's really tied to breaking that cycle of poverty. The stats bear the impact of investing in education. Completion of primary school can increase wages by 13 to 20%. And if you can get through secondary school, those numbers even go up, and it's game-changing. So Room to Read has started to find ways that we see really working now of investing in education. First, it is about creating this community around the school and ensuring that it's one of the most prioritized, best buildings in the heart of the community that children want to go to and that parents are supporting. So it's a child-friendly learning environment. And then we focus on the quality of the education, particularly around literacy. Basic literacy is a core fundamental need that we're still failing in most schools around the world. And it's about creating these vibrant libraries that are print-rich, ways of attracting children into education. Because you know what? Education has to be fun. It can't be all serious. So you find these great books that draw children in these safe places where they want to learn and explore the world. Room to Read has established over 11,000 libraries now throughout Asia and Africa where we work. And we're very proud to say that last year, once every 4 to 6 hours, a new Room to Read library is opening up somewhere in our network and inviting kids in and giving them that experience of experiencing books and putting that smile on their face when they're able to read a story that they love. And of course, the libraries are all about books. So we do everything we can to help support the creation of wonderful, child-friendly, age-appropriate stories. In fact, this month we celebrate a magnificent milestone at Room to Read where we are donating our 10 millionth book throughout our network. And so many of these books, in fact, 553 original titles have come through Room to Read's local language publishing program, where we're working with local authors and local illustrators and training them how to write for children, because writing for children is an art form in and of itself, and helping to bring those books to publish, to print them, and distribute them throughout the schools and libraries. You know, I love visiting libraries. You hear the best questions from children when I get to spend time in Room to Read libraries. Like in Nepal, a landlocked state, they ask, what does the ocean taste like? In Cambodia, a very hot country, they ask, what does snow feel like? You know, it's that creativity. It's opening their minds to the rest of the world and allowing them a place to explore the natural sense of creativity that children are born with. And the other key part of our literacy work is how do you teach reading and writing better so that we're not failing children throughout the schools in the world? So they are getting the basic skills in their early grades to learn how to read and write. What we have found is you have to really work through teachers and be able to ensure that they have both professional development skills as well as the right materials to be able to teach reading and writing. So we've created all sorts of materials that we're training the teachers on. Fabulous things, flashcards, posters, early grade reader books, curriculum for the teachers, fun ways to engage them. And this has helped inspiring a whole nother generation to be able to learn to read better and more sustainable. You know, and the great part about this is when you start to hear the stories of how it's working. This is a wonderful story that comes out of Room to Read Nepal of Suraj and Anita, who are both in the 5th grade, very rural part of Nepal, where they found a great book in their library on sanitation and the environment, and they loved it. And you know what they did? They went out and they started a door-to-door campaign in their village to talk about the issues around having a clean environment and stop the littering. 5th graders, okay? And it's working. And they are now well known throughout their community as activists, which is great, all because of their library. And it's about inspiring teachers, like Ms. Chandra here in Zambia. She's part of our literacy instruction program, where she's learning new methodologies of how do you engage children more actively and participating in their own education. So she's learned a whole new set of skills on how to teach reading and writing. And now, when you visit her classroom, she has the children singing and learning through all different ways that you would never see. It's not just about rote memorization and sitting there and listening to the teacher, but it's about actively engaging them in their own education. And we're reaching out into the community more broadly. You know, we train hundreds of authors and illustrators to inspire them to write for children. And we're seeing great books, you know, a book out of India called An Amazing World, where you learn about the geography of India through the different hats in different parts of India. I mean, these stories are rich, culturally relevant, and fun for children. The other key part of our work is our work around girls' education. You know, you probably have heard it said before, but one of the best investments you can make in the developing world is investing in women and girls. It reduces infant mortality, it increases family health and nutrition. The #1 determinant of whether a child grows up literate is if there is a literate mother in the household. Every year that a girl stays in secondary school, her earning potential goes up by 15% every year. And girls reinvest 90% back into their community. So the payoff is huge. There are many ways to correlate investing in women and girls and improving economic prosperity. When 10% more girls go to school, a country's GDP increases on average by 3%. So what have we seen working in girls' education? We've seen 3 core components to our program that are necessary. First is about keeping girls in school longer. In sub-Saharan Africa, where we work, only 1 out of every 5 girls ever makes it to secondary school. You're never going to break the cycle of poverty if we don't change those statistics. It's about keeping girls like Marjorie here in Zambia, who wants to be a lawyer, in her own words, so that she can bring law and order to her village in Zambia, in school longer, so that she can achieve that dream. But it's also really key to provide them mentors and role models for these girls, of women that are active in their own communities, outside of the home, because they don't often know many women that have stayed in school and have started to work outside of the home. So we bring mentors to work with the girls. This is the story of Maheshwari in India. She, a couple years ago, was at risk of dropping out of school. She wasn't doing well. Her teachers didn't believe she could do well. Her parents had lost faith in her, and she'd lost faith in herself. When Room to Read came to her village and started working in her school, she had a mentor who spent time with her and understood the challenges in her life and how to navigate them, and gave her extra tutoring. Now Maheshwari is in the top 10 of her class, and she says in her own words, it's because someone believed in me. Sometimes that's all it takes, is someone believing in you. And the third component of our girls' education program is our life skills workshops that we do outside of the formal school, in activities with the girls, where they're learning key skills of how to negotiate their very difficult lives. Communication skills, leadership skills, self-awareness, problem solving, goal setting. A couple months ago, I had the opportunity to be in Cambodia, in a very rural area, attending one of the workshops that was being facilitated by girls who had just graduated from the program, for girls that were in the 10th to 12th grade. And the activity for the day was to talk about, what do you want for your own future? These girls had to define it. Then they had to go home, they had to tell their parents, both their mother and their father, and ask for their support. for what their future goals were. And then they had to go out into the community and tell others so that they could help really build a whole team behind them to achieve those dreams. It was very powerful to watch. And several of the girls had told me for the first time, and remind you, these are girls in the 10th and 12th grade. No one's ever asked me what I wanted out of my own life before today. It was a very powerful experience to sit there and see them define that for themselves. So that's that's what Room to Read does in our programs. But how do we work? That's also key to what we do, because I think it's all about how we engage communities right from the beginning in the work and defining how they want to improve their educational systems in their communities. That's part of the power. It starts first with our leadership and our country teams. This is a picture of our leadership at the country and regional level in Africa. Throughout Room to Read's network, from our country directors all through our programming staff, they're local nationals in the countries that they're in. They're social visionaries who understand the educational system and have a vision of how to improve it that we're investing in. And that's key. And it's also key at the beginning of any project to really ensure that we've got the whole community behind us. This is a great picture of the center pillar of a new school being set up in Sri Lanka. And the whole community has come out. And it's a perfect image that they're helping to really build that school, that sweat equity of making sure that they are building what they want to see out of their own vision. And the great part is, we've seen time and time again, is that when the parents are involved right from the beginning, they have a sense of ownership over the school, and they're ensuring that their children get to school and that they maintain that building. And throughout all our programs and our literacy and girls' education program, we ensure that there are ways that the community has to be a part of that and has a strong sense of ownership. So it's a social catalyst for change. It's also about ensuring that as we scale and replicate this model, we're always finding locally relevant ways to do that. This is how a library gets established in the Chor district of Bangladesh, very remote area. And it ensures that our investments are going the furthest because we're using very local ways that are cost efficient and effective in everything that we do. And the great part is that our country teams are core to how we build community. When I was in Zambia earlier this year, my Zambia team had this great story about engaging Zambeef, a local company that was working in some of the remote areas in Zambia. They would take their trucks full with beef back to this Lusaka, the capital, but they returned to these remote areas with empty trucks. And so they approached Zambeef and they said, you know, we have all these books and furniture that need to get out to our libraries. Can you help us? So now Zambeef, pro bono, at no cost to us, which is actually a huge issue in Zambia where there's very poor infrastructure and it's very expensive to transport, now invests in the work that we're doing, and it's a great way for them to support their local community, and it's a great way to help Room to Read. We have hundreds of stories like that of how we're partnering with communities to define their own success. And the really wonderful part that we're very happy is that we've been able to impact over 5 million children's lives in just 10 years. Established over 11,000 libraries. We have more than 10,500 girls in our long-term girls education program. We're operating in 10 countries. But the really sad part is that's just a drop in the bucket, just a drop in the ocean of what the world needs around education. There's so much more that can be done. And the great news is that we know how to do it. We know how to educate children. We don't need to invent anything new, but we need to do it better, faster, at scale, and not lose another generation. It's absolutely possible in our lifetime to eradicate illiteracy. We all can come together and ensure that every child, no matter what circumstance they were born into, has access to high-quality educational opportunities in their community that helps them reach their full potential in life and turn their dreams into a reality. It's not just possible, we have to do it before we lose the next generation. It's a big mountain that we have been talking about in so many ways today and throughout Chicago's Ideas Week of all these things we can do. But by coming together, I know we can climb that mountain and do it together. There's so much passion and innovation and creativity that has come out of just the last couple of hours here today, which is exciting to see. And I hope we all are thinking of ways that we can create the world, the just, equal, free, prosperous world that we want to live in. And so I leave you with another Dr. Suess quote. Kid, you'll move mountains. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Thank you so much.